Alrighty, we are live, baby.
We are live. We are live.
Check battery. Spotlight. Oh, this. Quick tap. There we go.
Alrighty. Let's get cooking here. Let's get cooking. Obviously, y'all can see Fiona. Yeah, you can hear me. Okay. Obviously, y'all can see Fiona on the screen. We're gonna talk about Fiona first because that's the current impacts. That's the current thing at hand right here. And this thing's a beast. I've been away for a couple of days. I had some time to myself, which was nice. But now, we're going in. We're going into depth. We got Ian. We are going. I promise you, for all of you that are on here right now, we are going to go well into depth on Ian, which is going to be a problem. That thing is going to be a problem. In case you didn't know already, I'm sure most of you do. Ian is going to be a problem. There's just no other way of putting it. That thing is going into the Gulf of Mexico one way or another. That's a powerful hurricane. I'm pretty confident. And there's going to be some problems. We're going to be some problems with that one. But we're going to dive into Fiona first. Currently, obviously you can see it's made the extratropical transition. We slide back. We can slide this back a little bit even. Please load. Slide this back. Well, there we go. You can see how it starts. You can see how the cloud tops are starting to warm some. They don't look as deep convection. There's not as much deep convection centered in the center, quite literally. There's all the convection is getting pushed off to the west. Even if we zoom out, I want to zoom out. And then give me that. You'll be able to see it much better here with the zoom out, especially with such a larger system now that we're dealing with. You can see. So what's happened here is, we had this trough dig in. And with this happening, got caught up here in the upper level low. Well, it's going to make its own upper level low soon, is what's going to happen eventually. And then we have this, sorry, got sidetracked for a second. And we have this, let me restart. Boom, so we have this trough that's connected to right now. And as it got connected to it, it gets sucked in. The low-level vort got sucked into the trough. And what's happened now is our trough is turning negative. And as it's turning negative, right, so this is positive, neutral, negative. So as our trough is starting to turn negative, that's when start to see this pull to the west, and you can see, it's heading northeast, and then starting to get pulled, and that's where it is. And our center's somewhere around here right now, and all the cloud tops are getting pushed. You can see the convection is going to spread out to the north. And we've had some big significant gusts already. Cape Breton Mesonet. This dude has put out some observations of this storm. The 106 mile per hour gusts. I don't know exactly where this is, but I'm going to guess I mean, where is this? All right, so this looks like, I'll show you. Right around here, 106 mile per hour gusts. 106 mile per hour gusts reported. And wait till the eye gets past too. Once the eye gets past it, that's when we're going to start to see. That's when we're going to start to see some of those bigger gusts kicking. I mean, we could be talking 120, 130 plus mile per hour gusts. I think we could see some of those readings as long as the stations stay up. We could see some potentially massive wind gusts. I mean, we could be talking 130, 140 plus miles per hour. Wouldn't shock me. You know, guys like Stoss, Simon Brewer, you know, iCyclone, they're gonna get some good. They're gonna get some good stuff. You know, from chasing this. They're gonna get some really cool pressure data. Potentially one of the strongest storms, if not the strongest storms, potentially to ever landfall on Nova Scotia too. That is going to be. There's going to be some really interesting data from the storm. It's just, you know, the sad part is this is going to do some damage. Is doing damage currently as we speak, and you can see some of these cloud tops getting over into Maine too. Maine's probably ripping right around now. I'm guessing they're gusting. They're going to probably gust anywhere from 35 to 50 miles per hour tonight. You know, if we saw landfall, you know, more right here, then, you know, Cape Cod probably would have gusted 40, 50 miles per hour today. And the eastern Maine probably would have gusted 50, 60, you know, miles per hour tonight. Maybe even higher a little bit. Just because we had this high pressure, we talked about this, we had this high pressure over here to our west. And then we have Fiona over here to the east. And this is creating a big pressure gradient. Not big, but a significant enough pressure gradient where that's why it was pretty gusty today across the northeast. And it's going to continue to stay gusty throughout the night and into the morning as well. You know, tonight, or right around now, honestly, it wouldn't surprise me if it was pretty windy outside. I can't tell. But, you know, 30 to 35 mile per hour gusts are possible. You know, across a lot of New England tonight, and then Maine will get the 40 to 50 mile per hour gusts tonight. I don't know if those will be recorded because this is limited population out here, but there definitely is going to be some 40 plus mile per hour gusts in eastern Maine tonight. I don't know if they'll be able to get to any rainfall as well, so you could be wrong, but you know, there could be some rain showers that bring down some of that. Could be on the French. It didn't look like they were going to be close enough. I guess I could check radar, and I'll check comments in a second. You know, I just like to get through a lot of this original stuff because this is probably going to be a long stream tonight because I know it's the weekend. There'll probably be some more questions because more people are on. There's a storm that's going to be U.S. impacts. I said in the beginning, I promise y'all, we're going to go in depth. We're going to go in depth on. I think they're calling it Ian. It's like the official way to say it, but we're just going to call it Ian because Ian's the dumb way to say it. That's my opinion, but. Look at radar, see if I don't think anything. Last I checked, nothing was getting into Maine. Come on. There we go. Whoa. Nope. Here. Upload. That's cool. All right, it's on the edge. Some of this could get. I'm not sure how much the you know, this is going negative, so how much precip is going to get, you know, this precip's getting backed right now. That was a little hard to see, but I think you can kind of see it. This precip's getting backed. You know, I'll show you, you know, this is a lot, you know, now that this has gone extra tropical, this is a lot like a winter storm. Imagine we're waiting for the southern vort to ride the storm. And I'll play you, we'll go even... Go 500. 500, even though we're in tropics, 500 is very important. Very important. So what's happened here is imagine like this is, imagine Fiona, it's our low level vort that's going to be kicking into the system. So imagine, we want to make this bigger. I already know that's going to, we'll make this blue. Imagine this is our low level. We're waiting for this southern branch. Imagine Fiona as our southern branch. This piece is going to ride and collide with this one. So this is why we're seeing this interaction today. This is our trough, which was positive earlier today. It's probably I gotta imagine it's we're negative now. Yep. Didn't even need to question that. But we got this being pulled in, and basically what's happening is this is our trough digging down, and our low level we're going to combine. We're going to create a big, massive upper level low with this system, and it's going to phase almost just like a hurricane, or just like a snowstorm would, except it's a hurricane. And as this happens, just probably won't get a deformation snowband. That's probably the only difference. You can see we got this cold air that's going to be injected. That's why it's pretty cool right now across the Northeast, or at least New England. If you didn't notice, we got this cold air. It's not a super deep drop, but it's a pretty. There's some solid depth to this drop. That's why we're getting some cool air, some slightly below average temps. We're getting some cool air into this side, and then as the trough goes negative, we're getting this pump of tropical moisture. And that's why we're going to see a lot of big rainfall totals, because we got that tropical moisture that's pumping into the system. And as that happens, we also got the wind with it. We have that tropical, that strong tropical low, which will help make this a really strong extratropical system. Already is, but the wind that's being pushed as well now, that offshore wind that's being pushed onto Cape Breton, and it's also going to be pushed into Newfoundland as well. There's just less people that live there. Is going to bring some significant impacts. Again, we talked about it, probably 130, 140 plus mile per hour wind gusts if they measure it. Pressure is still like 930 millibars, I think, right now. I just saw a tweet. I think it was like 932 or something. If it landfalls around that, I think the strongest was like low 940s is what they said the lowest was. So if we get anything sub 940, I think that will be the strongest. I think that will be the strongest on record if we get anything sub 940 to ever landfall. Was it Canada? I forget. But it was something sub 940, which will break a record. So this is a lot like a wintertime storm in terms of the pieces in the upper levels that are forming /formed. But it's really cool process. Scary for the people of Nova Scotia a little bit. People didn't need to panic as long as they were prepared. As long as they're prepared, they should be okay. Obviously, with systems this strong, there's some not smart people or people that are just unlucky and get put in bad situations, a little bit of everything potentially, maybe a little dumb, little unlucky, and their life can flash before their eyes, and sometimes their lives can be taken with storms that are this strong. So luckily, storm surge isn't as big of a problem given the geography of the coastline, which is good. So storm surge can be kind of thrown off the table for the main concerns with this storm. But at the same time, it wouldn't surprise me if we see some people lose their lives with this storm, because it's just, when you have such strong winds, trees coming down onto houses, there's going to be some problems, people, stepping on the power line, whatever, etc., trying to move power lines, which they shouldn't. But, there's just a risk that these people could potentially lose their life if they're not prepared. Sometimes it's just unlucky, but praying for the people of Nova Scotia tonight, because this is going to be a historic storm. It is a historic storm, and we dodged a bullet. Anywhere in the Northeast and the East Coast dodged a bullet with this one for sure. Because if we saw the timing of this trough, and we saw Fiona slide a little bit more west, a few hundred miles 400 miles ish, this would be a much larger problem. But luckily, it's not for us. Alrighty. Now, let's talk about Ian. I have not seen the 0Z models come out yet because I literally started stream as it was coming out. So I've not seen the GFS yet. But let's get into it. I'll let this dude post any observations. See if he's got any updated. Seems like he's got some good stuff. Nothing updated? No, doesn't look like it. Okay. Let's get into it, baby. So just upgraded. It's oh shit, I forgot to look back at comments. Can I not go back? Dang it, I wish I could. Can I go through and see past chat? You've got a YouTube comment here. Wave size. If there are people that still in the YouTube chat, I saw something 60 plus feet. 60 plus feet. I saw something on the wave size. If Jacob, if you're still there on YouTube, I saw something 60 plus feet in terms of the wave size. I saw something. But I'm going to talk about Ian or Ian, because I know there's Ian Eagle that does basketball podcasts and stuff. But we're just gonna call it Ian because Ian sounds stupid. But until someone corrects me, someone important corrects me. Again, just upgraded, 40 mile per hour tropical storm now at this point. And this was the convective blowout that kind of did it. My prediction was throughout the day that with this convection firing up, that at some point we're going to see a center reformation. And I think we're in the process of that happening right now. I think we are. We are going to see that, if not seen that already, given that this convection completely waned. This was like a snake shedding its skin, and then this is the new and improved convection that's firing up. Shear is definitely relaxed. Is starting to relax here. You can kind of see here with the clouds here, you can see that this isn't being pushed as much. These winds aren't being pushed as much to the south. You can see the convection too, even as it's firing up, it's just spreading out. Kind of imagine stadium effect-ish a little bit, not quite, but you can imagine it, how it's just starting to expand on all sides. And it's not just being pushed one direction. Shear's been being pushed all day. It's been being pushed this way all day and last night too. That's where it's been being pushed. But now we can see this thing's been firing up. It's been firing up convection all day long, but we've seen more confined convection, likely closer to the low level center, which I will call the LLC on a lot of the upcoming streams in the mid level center. That will be important over the next couple days or so, as shear won't be at its most relaxed state until a little bit. So over the next day or so, we're probably going to see we're going to look for how stacked the low level center and the mid level center will be, and that will define how quickly the storm can strengthen. Because while we talked about it on a lot of streams in past, we look for imagine this is our mid level center and this is our low level center, and there's a line that goes through. Imagine this being a stacked system. And we talk about in the winter time with the upper level low, the mid level low, and the low level low, the surface low. We talked about those being stacked, and that's what we look for. That's what we look for in big snowstorms. Similar in terms of hurricanes, except we start the upper levels are a little bit less important. And the low level and the mid levels, we focus on we are a little bit more important when it comes to tropical because stuff starts from the surface. That's just how it works with tropical systems. So we want to look for these to be stacked in order for it to intensify. Now, if it's to prolong itself, we would be looking at the low-level center and the mid-level center being stacked. So if I ran this line through here, that's not straight, but you still get the point. The mid-level center is now a little bit off, so it's not able to intensify. See how it works is we have a stacked low level and mid level low, and they work its way. The stronger the hurricane, the higher it up, because these are, again, I say this every time, it's rotating thunderstorms around the center. That's just what a hurricane is. It's a rotating thunderstorms around the eye, not rotating thunderstorms as in severe weather, rotating thunderstorms around the center. Spinning, it's a strong low level vorticity signature, and that can work its way higher into the atmosphere the stronger the storm is, and eventually it needs this outflow, and this is harder to do if the system is not stacked. So that is what we look for in these tropical systems, and that's typically more the beginning stages, because once we get a storm like Fiona was either earlier today or yesterday, and we get such powerful storms, you're usually not looking for the storm to be perfectly stacked at that point, because it's usually pretty close once a storm is at major hurricane status. Sometimes every storm is different, so there's different scenarios, but typically when storms are beasts, you're less concerned about the mid-level low and the low-level center. Mid-level center and low-level center stacking. You're a little bit less concerned about that, and you're looking for, perfections in the environment, potentially shear, having convection, warm the eye again, or etc. So there's a lot of different factors depending on the size of the storm, what the beginning stages are. There's still a lot that'll have to be figured out, and certain details that will have impacts for maybe smaller locations, but a little shift, a little change can affect, just a few towns over. It can make a big difference, for those people that are living there. So we're going to talk about all those. We're going into depth. And one of the main things I really like about the system, and I told you before we didn't stream last couple nights, was it's the precip bubble on the storm. There's just no dry air to be found on this thing. Look at the outflow starting to get pretty nice. You can see on the northwest side of the storm here. You can see how the outflow is just starting to expand now. Doesn't look like it's being pushed. Doesn't look like it's being pushed down. You can see some shear more over here. You can see how it was being pushed down a little bit more with this shear over here. Now the outflow is starting to be a little bit more beneficial. You can see on this side how it's just starting to expand. It's not having a problem to get this moisture expanding. And dry air is a little bit of clip, a little bit in here, but this will push it. This moisture will push that out of here. So this looks really promising. I mean, we can see the storm strengthen tonight. Probably not rapidly. It's not perfect. This environment is not perfect yet, and we're still waiting on the low-level center and the mid-level center to stack. Or if it's not close, come closer together, which I'm assuming it's pretty close to that center reformation happening, if not already happening. I don't know. I don't know at the moment. I'd have to see some thoughts of some other people and see some other more information, so I can't tell just based on a satellite image. But we're going to go more into depth of the environment and stuff coming up in a second, but just want to show you what it's looking like now. And again, part of the things we'll talk about is this moisture, and it's one of the things from the start that's made me really like this. Even when it's been weak over the past day or so, it's had a pretty decent, there's been some dry air, which it hasn't been historic, like, oh my God, that's like the best moisture bubble I've ever seen before. No, but it's had a really good support. Dry air is not going to be a problem with this storm for now. Now, eventually, it'll be something more we'll have to watch. But at the moment, it's not really a problem. And it's not going to be for the next 3-4 days, at least. So as we progress out, I haven't looked at the GFS, as I said. I have not looked at the GFS yet. But we want to get to 850. And we'll slide into the Western Atlantic. Where are you? There you are. Boom. All right, so this is Fiona. Or sorry, no, not Fiona. This is Ian, right here. You can see the vort coming together a little bit more. And one of the things we're watching track-wise is why this center, possible center reformation is important, because the storm has been, for now, for at least the short term still, this will change over the upcoming days, but a weaker storm, typically with weaker storms, they get pushed off and are able to send farther west and south in latitude. It's different with this one, though, because Fiona's outflow has been like this. And these winds coming from the northeast, which are Fiona's southeast winds, these winds coming from the northeast have been pushing wind shear for the past couple days. And why we haven't seen the system form hit, it's been taking its time, because we've been seeing northeast wind shear over the past couple days or so push down and push any convection that it tried to form near the center, pushed it to the southwest. So if this was the center, we talked about it just a few minutes ago, this convection being pushed to the southwest because of these northeast winds. And typically the low level, if the low level center is exposed from the mid level center, then typically we can see this just ride along. But here it's feeling more the steering of the mid levels. It's feeling a little bit more. So in this case, typically you would see a stronger storm that would slide out just like this. It would be easier for that track to happen. This will make sense in a second, I promise. If it doesn't, some of you are a little bit more experienced, so you probably already know this, but some probably not. Just why I'm doing this. I'm not an expert either, by the way. I'm not an expert. I just know what I happen to know. Still learning stuff, but I know a decent amount. I think not bad. And so what we're watching for with this is a center reformation, where the convection is where the mid-level center is, and the low-level center, which you typically see if you see that naked swirl. If you saw that naked swirl today, that was away on a visible satellite. That was away from the convection displaced. The low-level steering is more favorable for the storm to ride farther north track. So a stronger, intense storm is, at least in the short term, is probably going to lead for a more southern track. So a storm that's able to intensify and follow its mid-level center that's a little bit farther south of where its low-level center is and a little bit farther west is going to allow this thing to potentially avoid doing one of these and instead doing something like this. And this is why I've been skeptical of all those model runs this morning and late last night that were showing this side. I don't think personally this is a Miami, Florida Keys. That's my gut. That's my gut. I could be wrong. I could be very wrong. I don't know. It depends on the evolution overnight will be important, or next couple of days, how fast this intensifies. But unlike other storms, where the stronger the storm just slides out farther east and the weaker slides out farther west until it's favorable, a stronger storm, definitely at least in the shorter term, is going to allow for a slightly more western track. And it can only go so far up to the point, because as we play this out, you can see it's intensifying, obviously. And GFS splits it completely in this run. I haven't seen the run. I'm just playing out now for myself. If we slide at 500 millibars, one of the keys down the line with this system, no pun intended, Florida, but one of the keys with this system, so if we slide it, you can see this is right down here. This is Ian. Sorry, there's so many names in the Atlantic right now. I'm trying to do a process. Eventually, I I mean, I guess this is next week. Yeah, next week there's going to be this trough that slides down, and I tweeted this earlier. I'm skeptical the depth of the trough. So if I played previous runs, looks like it's a little bit slower with this development. A dud. I mean, what other storms have we had this year that have hit the U.S.? Has there been? I feel like there haven't really been any storms to compare to. Hurricane season's really just gotten going. So I don't really see this being a dud. There's possibility that this weakens before landfall, but even before then, it would probably still be it would still be a low end hurricane, which wouldn't be a dud. And the storm surge would be right from what would have been a major hurricane. So I think this is going to be a major hurricane. I don't see this being a dud. And the last one wasn't a dud either. Fiona, the current one, I guess you could still say Fiona is barreling Nova Scotia right now at like 930 millibars. So I really wouldn't call this. I don't think this is going to be a dud. And I'm just a little confused on what you mean by of every other storm, because there hasn't been a U.S. landfall yet. And hurricane season really just gotten started. The other names were just like weak ones in the beginning of the season, which we wouldn't expect those anyways to really be all that significant. But it's not a normal windstorm. It's not a normal windstorm. Josh, you gotta take into account Josh has been in the eye of Category 5 hurricanes. Yeah, his job isn't to tell you what it's compared to like usually in that town. That's not Josh's job. Josh's job is, compared to all the stuff he's seen before. Josh has seen a lot of stuff in his life. Josh is one of the most experienced storm chasers out there. He's been through, like 200-mile-per-hour wind gusts before. Even he just said, I think in one of his last tweets, it was, tropical storm force winds. And he's still waiting. I mean, there's been reported over 100-mile-per-hour. There's been 100-mile-per-hour plus wind gusts reported from this system already. So I'm not sure that's just a normal windstorm. The rain moved through already. It's not normal. It's an extratropical system, so it's a little bit different than a hurricane. But I'm not going to spend, too much more time on this. I can only show you the threat that we have now and what the storm is doing. That's an historic storm, especially pressure-wise. So we'll get back to this, though. That's why I love to answer questions, but I try to do them as much at the end as possible when I've gone through. So one of the keys here is we have this trough that's going to be digging in, and one of the disagreements between the GFS and the Euro has been the depth of this trough and the timing. I mean, hey, if you're not in it, I'm not sure how you can say, but all right. I'm not really gonna go too much into depth about that. I want to go over Ian right now. So one of the uncertainties is whether or not this gets picked up by the trough. The GFS has been consistently, no matter where it is, it's been trying to shear the system before landfall. And one of the reasons why it doesn't, you'd say, well, it doesn't shear it when it landfalls here. Well, it doesn't shear it when it landfalls here because it's not close enough to get sheared off. And also, it's not to be able affected by the trough as much. It does eventually once it gets to the same latitude. It's just having this stay over water a little bit longer track-wise. And eventually, both of these get sheared off. It's just this makes landfall while it's still intense. This just stays over water and gets sheared for a little bit longer. That's the difference between the GFS runs you've been seeing. So I'm curious how the depth of this trough compares to last run. I mean, it broadened out the trough again. I'm curious how this run evolves. She again shears it off. I mean, this is 500, so it's a little bit harder to tell. Um, yeah, not much stream interaction. I mean, it even tries to get close with with the next trough that comes through. That's how long it misses. I mean, it misses it completely. That's interesting. That could throw a new wrench into the current forecast. But that's down the road. First, let's get into why the storm is going to strengthen. Why is Ian going to take off? Well, one of the main things. We'll slide into here. Actually, what is Fiona? $930 millibars. Yep. So that's pretty ridiculous. But one of the things that's going to allow Ian to intensify so much is the water temperatures. I mean, bath water near 90 degree Fahrenheit sea surface temperatures, near 90 degrees. That is what's going to allow the storm to take off. Part of it. Not the whole reason. You can't just have warm water temperatures. If it was just warm water temperatures, we would get like 40 storms a year. But it doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that because one of the major other things are wind shear, moisture. That's key, and the upper level pattern, which is connected to wind shear as well, but also those sea surface temperatures. And I think there's a good. I want to try to find it. Ocean heat content. There we go. Finally. Yeah. Yeah. It didn't need to be Gulf of Mexico. You could just zoom this in here. Yeah. So as you can see, so how deep ocean heat content works. So imagine, I talked about this last stream too, but imagine this is the sea surface, right? This is where they're measuring those 30-degree sea surface temperatures. But below it, the isotherm, the 30-degree goes here, the 29-degree isotherm goes lower, 28 goes lower. There's no scale here. I'm just making my own scale. 27 goes even lower, and 26 goes even low. So this is measuring, how far below the surface these isotherms of these warmer sea surface temperatures are going. So how much heat can this? Because typically what we see with a lot of these, where there's not as much ocean heat content, is when storms go through this part of the country, they well up all this cool water from below the surface. That's just below the surface. So when you have these warm sea surface temperatures, these cool sea surface temperatures can't well up into these powerful systems. So these kind of ocean heat content values, really anything in the green and above, can support really strong hurricanes, like really, really strong hurricanes. So anything, and all of this, can support really strong hurricanes. Thanks for sharing it. So all that can support really strong hurricanes. But this is really, this is really off the charts. Really these oranges and these reds and these deep reds. That means, that the 26-degree isotherm is really below the surface. That in 27, 28, etc. Are really extended below the surface, deep enough so none of that cooler ocean water can well up into the storm, unless like it's stalled like Dorian did for like days, which is not the case here. It's most likely not going to be a Dorian and stall like that. completely different storm. But I'm just trying to give you the perspective. This is going to allow, and it's going to support a major hurricane to move over this area, or allow storm to intensify into a major hurricane. I guarantee you, with these values, this is the area we see the storm intensify the most. I guarantee it. This will be able to appreciate it. Love wintertime. I'm telling you, but wintertime we're going to be rocking. I promise you. As we get closer with this storm too, these streams will get a rock. We already had, I think we had like 20 people in here in the beginning. And like hundreds of people will watch this, but it's more important the people that are there at the time. But it's also good for people to go back and watch. I don't mind that. Whenever you want to watch it, or whenever you can watch it, appreciate it, of course. But as I was saying, as we get closer, more people will pop in because they care. They care about the impacts. They care about the impacts when they're close. When storms start to impact them, they're looking for more information. How does this affect me? So that's just naturally what happens. Hurricanes, as long as the environment, if there's not other things, as long as the environment is, supportive of either intensification or holding its intensity, it's until the eye, not until those rain bands come. It's when the eye moves over, once landfall happens. Models struggle with predicting intensity of hurricanes. It's really hard. It's really hard to predict. Models do struggle with that. They're better with track, and even then, they still suck at times. Again, models are tools; they're not forecasts. So that's our job to figure it out. Weather enthusiasts and meteorologists, it's our job to figure it out. Use those models as tools, base it on past history or what we know, and try to use that to make a forecast. But again, this is just boom, bath water, even below the surface bath water. Again, this is ocean heat content, so it's how warm is the water below the surface too. It's valuing that, and this is boom, ready for explosion with these kind of values. And even a storm, if it wanted to ride up the East Coast, which we'll talk about that feature as well, talk about the possibility of that happening. We'll talk about that. These are some pretty good values too. Something to watch. But let me bring it back. It's, again, this moisture. I mean, look at this. Beautiful. Can I say beautiful? Obviously, it's going to cause us devastation somewhere, probably, if it develops like we think it will. But I'm just saying, from a meteorological perspective, it's just great moisture. This is great. This is what the storm needs. And again, even I'm a little skeptical. I think, even though this is still good enough, but I think it's maybe going to clear out a little bit more of this dry air. That's something else. Looks like immediately off the bat is one thing I notice. Is GFS underdoing the strength still? Is this going to be a 1002? I mean, is it already? I mean, what do we got already? What is this, like a 1004, 1005 already? $10.05 millibars already. You're telling me 24 hours from now, when tomorrow we'll start to see shear relax, that it's going to still have this only dropping 3 millibars? A little skeptical of that already. Well, what does it have it now? 10:06. So it's already an hour from now. It's already a millibar 2 week. I mean, these are just semantics. I'm nitpicking. But I need to nitpick in order to figure out every little thing. In the grand scheme of things, there's different there's so many different things to look at that add up to the big picture. That's a good way to save yourself from not looking like a weenie. That was a weenie statement phrased very professionally, John. That was a weenie statement that was phrased extremely professional. Yeah, so as this progresses, you can see the moisture that's going to be, just pumping into the system. It's going to pull some of the specific moisture to at some point, as it's going to be boom, pulling this, pulling this into the system. Boom, it's got the specific, it's pretty close to the Pacific, so it's going to have that transport, but also this Caribbean moisture, just in general, that's plenty. It's plenty for the system to get going. So it's going to strengthen. It's going to take off. My guess is tomorrow night into tomorrow morning, or not tomorrow morning, tomorrow night into Monday morning is when I think this thing starts to go awry. When this thing starts to rapidly intensify, if it doesn't start sooner, if it's not sooner, but that's my first guess. So far, I'm pretty sure I've done a decent job with this thing. My gut was that center reformation, which is either happening or it's gonna happen soon. It's happened, or happening / gonna happen. You just look at satellite. That thing's gonna happen, and that center reformation is gonna pull the storm farther southwest. Yeah, that shit's happening. That's gonna happen. That's gonna happen. There's no way, if it doesn't already, if it hasn't already. Too much convection here. Too much organized convection. To at least have some influence. Bring the low-level center closer. At a minimum. So yeah, so we wake up tomorrow, the 8 a.m. or 11 a.m. advisory. It's probably going to be pretty strong. Or sorry, not pretty strong. I was just thinking eventually it's going to be pretty strong, but it's not. It's. I would guess this thing could work stronger. I guess 45, 50 miles per hour. We'll probably see slow intensification as there's still some shear present. But its conditions are starting to become more favorable, as you can see from the convective blow up tonight. So throughout the night, I think we could see some gradual strengthening continue, as we're looking for the low level center and the mid level center to become stacked or closer together. And as we see that happen, we're going to see some gradual strengthening over the next 12 to 18 hours, I would say. And then I think tomorrow night into Monday morning is when we start to see this. When I think we'll start to see rapid intensification take place. And GFS kind of agrees with that as well, because this environment is just going to be so good. If this thing's able to split, that's a concern. And we're going to talk about that in a second. We're going to talk about this in a second. We kind of talked about it with that trough already. Well, one of the reasons is look at the upper level anticyclone here. Look at this bad boy. Woof. Good Lord. Perfect. That is what you look for. Obviously not in terms of being able to intensify, it's perfect. But in terms of just the best of all time, okay, obviously you could probably find one better, but this is a really low wind shear environment. Again, I was dealing with this wind shear over here. Not anymore tomorrow. Not anymore. And that is why we are concerned with this system becoming a major hurricane. I would be shocked if this didn't become a major hurricane. I mean, this is just textbook. This is textbook as it crosses over the center of this upper level anticyclone. This basically, which is an upper level high pressure, which is supportive for a hurricane to intensify. I mean, this is just this textbook. And then once we get here, I mean, imagine, especially if this goes over Cuba, it won't be affected too much. But it will halt intensification. Worst case scenario is it's able to avoid Cuba or barely go over Cuba. Maybe, slow down the intensification a little bit, but then it's just so quickly keeps up, slides off, and then rides up the East Coast. That's probably the worst case scenario here. And I think, the Euro I think the Euro has a better handling with the upper levels and the troughs and how they phase. I think the Euro just in general has a better handle on that stuff. It just has over the past years. Those big, strong, phasing systems. And, we are going to look for a phase, kind of like Fiona. We're going to look for that to potentially happen. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but we are looking for that to maybe happen. It is on the table. And even then, it doesn't guarantee that the whole East Coast sees a hurricane. That doesn't guarantee that. That's just one of the scenarios. But this is probably the worst case scenario. This thing gets beastly Cat 4 plus hurricane. And then maybe slows down a little bit as it makes landfall. Florida gets back in the Atlantic, intensifies again to a major hurricane, and then details to be figured out after that. We're still a long ways away from any potential, up the East Coast impacts if they were to happen. So we'll have time to figure that out. Let this thing get past Cuba first. Let this thing get out of the Caribbean, and then we can try to figure that out. We still have to figure out where this thing's going to landfall and how strong this thing's going to get. I mean, we know it's going to get really strong, so it's not like we're debating whether it's going to be like a low-end hurricane or if it's going to be a strong major hurricane. It's pretty clear that this thing's going to be a strong, at least a major hurricane, and potentially a strong major hurricane. But we still have to figure out some of the semantics of the track. I'd say anywhere from we'll go yellow. I'd say anywhere from here to here is possible. I'd say that's our likely area. Again, this is far western fringes, and I mean I could even go here. But that's our likely. That's our likely range, and I don't think I'd say this. You guys are pretty safe over here. You guys are pretty safe over there in Texas and most of Louisiana. I guess we can't quite rule out New Orleans yet, but even then it would be hard because this trough moving through is going to pick up this system. It's not actually dipping this far, but the influence is this far. But it's going to have some influence, and it's not exactly like that. It's going to feel some influence of that trough, though. And it's going to get picked up to the east. So I don't really see. If I were to be bold, I really don't see this being a problem for like anyone over here. Should Louisiana still keep an eye on this? Yes. Texas, I think you can save your hurricane prep plan for another day. Now, one thing really crazy that could happen, that could throw a wrench in everything I just said, is this thing becomes really strong, but this trough doesn't develop at all, and it becomes so much farther north. Imagine these upper level winds are so much farther north here that this dry air isn't able to get us farther entrenched, and it's not able, this trough isn't able to have as much influence pushing it to the east, and this thing just rides through the canal and does like one of these, and maybe weakens a little bit at the end because it will have to feel some of it, but it's so strong at this point that it will still be a major impact. That's the one thing that could throw a wrench in this. So that's why I say I won't completely rule out Louisiana, even though I don't think it's likely. I don't think it's likely. But again, I mean, come on, look at the outflow. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Just textbook. This is about as textbook as it gets. It's just perfect. It's perfect. That's what you look for. It's perfect. Perfect for something major to happen. I'd be shocked. I'd be shocked if this doesn't become a major hurricane. Strong with that too. I think you want me to put some bets down. I'd say this has a good shot at being a Cat 4 plus. Just initially, there's going to be hour replacement cycles that f with that, mess with that. We're going to have to try to figure out those things, but we can't figure out those things until the storm actually happens. And until it's, hurricane models try to pick up on that. Until that happens, we can only speculate. Probably will be an Iowa replacement cycle at some point, which technically doesn't weaken the storm. I say this, I want to make this always clear. Iowa replacement cycles do not really weaken the storm. They weaken the winds temporarily until the storm is able to start intensifying again with its new eye, new and improved eye, bigger eye. Not improved for strengthening as fast, but the central pressure doesn't typically drop. It will maybe rise a little bit. And when I say drop, it doesn't weaken as much. The central pressure will probably stay around the same, and then it will start to intensify. Yeah, I would lean minus and not plus on the odds for if anybody knows how the sports betting system work. I would lean minus and not plus. If anybody knows just how spread works in general, I would say there's a better shot that this becomes a Cat 4 than it doesn't. That's why I would lean. I was right. I was right about Fiona. I said that thing was going to become a Cat 4. Until it hit its Iowa replacement cycle, I really thought that thing was going to be like 140 mile per hour plus beast. I really did. It still got to 130. I really did until it hit that Iowa replacement cycle fast. As soon as National Hurricane Center said that thing was going to be a major hurricane or classified as a major hurricane, man, that thing went to its Iowa replacement cycle fast. St. Pete Beach. That's by Tampa, right? Let me get that right. I know that's still on that. St. Pete's by Tampa, right? Yeah. Yeah, I had that right. I know that from Tampa Bay. They always talk about down in St. Pete, baseball-wise, with the Rays. I would just make sure you have your hurricane prep plan. If you're prepared, you won't have to worry. Follow, local authorities. Local authorities that you trust, that are good. And I don't think you'll have to worry too much. As long as you be prepared. If you have, if you're going to ride out the storm and you don't live in a storm surge prone area, if it's coming towards you, if it's coming close towards you, then I think you should start, make sure you have enough food and water to support power outages that could could be substantial. If again, this is if it's coming close enough to you to make a significant impact. Even then, just make sure you have good food and water supplies. That's the most important stuff. I really recommend generator if you don't have it. That has helped a lot of times in a lot of storms. Yeah, we're gonna get. I promise you, we're gonna get into the East Coast aspect in a second. I just like breaking all this down. I don't got anything. I don't got anything better to do at this time of the night. This is what I'm going to be doing anyways. Is looking at the 0Z model runs. So why not? Do it and give you my thoughts. So I appreciate it. I'm glad a lot of you have enjoyed the stream. These are only gonna go up. The viewers, the people, So enjoy the peace and quiet in the stream now while you have it, because if you are, obviously, my man from Florida is probably not going to be involved in too many winter streams, but enjoy it now. Even when we move on, appreciate it. Even when we get closer to Ian's landfall, I told you there's just going to be more people in here just naturally. Because they're going to want information. So when that happens, we'll get packed. We'll probably get like 50 people to hop on in the beginning, and we'll probably get 30, 35 people to stay on through the stream. Maybe not that much, but I think this has a real shot. I don't know about being historic. It's a lot of stuff to figure, but this is probably going to be. I told you it's going to be one of them ones I said on last stream. It's probably going to be a major hurricane. That's probably going to be the biggest storm of the season. There in the tropics, not doing their thing or doing their thing. Yeah, let's get in now. Now let's start talking about how I'm trying to figure out what's going to happen once we get to this point. Are we looking at something like the GFS where it gets closer to here or here and it starts to get sheared off, and then it starts to weaken before landfall? Or are we looking at something like the Euro was advertised a lot of its runs from last night and today, where it's like this, slides up, jumps off the coast, makes a landfall, slides up the East Coast, like here or something. Those are the two different scenarios the GFS and the Euro are playing out. Another one, which could be in between, is we see this makes my ears pop. Well, it slides up farther northeast or something, and it doesn't get sheared quite as fast. It doesn't get sheared quite as fast. Slides off like this or something, and then rides up the East Coast. Something in between that, something from like here to here. That would be an in between. That'd be something a little bit in betweener. That would be something to watch. And now I'll show you what I mean by that. What do you mean by that? I'll show you what I mean by that. We got this. We're gonna have this trough coming by. Get into the conus. Boom, boom. Positively tilted trough. It's a lot of the stuff we're just going over with Fiona. And if we even slide out North America, damn it, it's not loaded yet. North Atlantic it is. What we're looking for is, you can see, look at the trough here. So you can see originally it's going to be a pretty weaker trough. It's going to be neutral. We want it blue. Initially, it's going to be, a pretty broad trough base, positive tilted trough. looking a little bit like that. We'll have this big pumping ridge. So that means when we have this big ridge, that means we're going to look for the west coast and the mountain west. They're probably going to be pretty hot next week. That's something I would bet on. They're going to be pretty hot. They're going to be pretty hot, and the east is going to be pretty cold, would be my guess. So if you're curious, temperature-wise, less storm stuff and more just general. It's probably going to be pretty hot over the mountain west next week. That would be my guess. In the west coast, a big pumping ridge. This is our high pressure. There's our high pressure. All right, this is our storm. It was chilly. This was one of those first nights where I went outside, because I did something earlier tonight where I went outside. And this was one of those first nights where I was like, "Oh yeah, this is I need my sweatshirt. I need my sweatshirt." Because it was it was like in the 40s, it was like upper 40s. So I know I said I'm a true New Englander and get the sweatshirt. That's winter time. When you switch from summer to cool temps fast, your body's not quite ready for it. But once we get into New England time, it's like the winters. Once we get into those 30s and it's just every day, then we put long sleeve sweatshirt on. That's what we do. We went short sleeve sweatshirt, so it was a little bit better. It's more true New Englander, I promise. And we had shorts on, so we're still classic New Englander. I promise. But again, sliding back here, probably some hot temps over here, cooler temps. But again, we have to watch how much does this dip happen? How much do we get a big dip in the jet stream? Is it going to be broader or is it going to be stronger? Reason I probably lean Euro was wider because it tends to do a little bit better with the strength of these big wavy jet streams. It tends to do a little bit better. I don't have the numbers to back it up, but I'm pretty sure there are numbers to back it up. And that's one of the differences. So if I could show you the GFS and compare that with the Euro. We're looking for also watch this extra piece that's sliding that's going to help enhance this trough and strengthen it a little bit more, help it go neutral a bit faster. Watch that evolution take place. You're going to see that piece. Let me see it. No, I won't say it. But watch it slide into the trough, and you can see this trough start to strengthen a bit. Tries to go neutral a bit more, and then you can see the timing is just messed up, and it gets sheared off on that specific run. It was so behind on this run that it just almost completely missed it, but caught the back end and got sheared off. But on the Euro, the difference is, we'll slide to 12Z. I mean, even then, 18's a Euro. 18's a Euro goes even more opposite. That right there, maybe, am I wrong? No, it's not backing. Now I'm backing down. That 18-0 run did not back down. A little bit slower with the evolution. But again, what we're watching, you'll see this boom initially, right? But you can see already this is a little bit deeper of a trough. A little bit tighter trough base and a little bit deeper of a trough. It's not exactly like that. Whereas the GFS is more like this. It's closer to that than it is the skinnier, deeper trough base, which is what we like in the wintertime. But then watch, this piece is going to get injected into the trough, and this is going to help enhance the depth and help the system go neutral and then eventually negative. You can see here, this is kind of, this trough gets so elongated, and then eventually we see this storm, it's going to phase just like Fiona did with that trough. It's going to phase right in here. and then it's going to pinwheel right into North Carolina. Yep, and there he goes. See, this trough kind of becomes an extension of this massive ridge of high pressure. And I don't know if it has this on the GFS too, but just looking at the Euro, you are not getting a storm out to sea. You were just not getting it. And if it were, it would be close. You were just not getting out to sea with that ridge of high pressure. No. Not with a 590 foot ridge. You were just absolutely not. Absolutely not. What are the differences with the GFS then? Let's find out. I didn't look too closely at that. A little bit weaker of a ridge, which allows this, it's backed off a little bit more. This high pressure strength of it is a little bit weaker, and it's a little bit slid to the east a little bit more. And this can allow just this little weakness in the ridge right here, and it can slide out to sea easier. But on a Euro, you are not sliding out to sea. You are absolutely not sliding out to sea. There's no room for it to slide out to sea. High pressure is too strong, and there's a trough right there for it to collide with and phase with. That's just not happening. And that's why we saw it come so far inland on that run. I don't know if it's going to come that far inland, but it is something to watch. It is something to watch. And watch, boom, right here, our trough. Ooh, negative. Yeah. I mean, you can make a case it's still neutral at that point. Now it's negative. Now our trough's negative, and our storm starts to get pulled in. Again, when we talk about positive, neutral, negative, this will be very important in the wintertime. For you winter folks, this will be very important to know those when I go over. I will continue to do it because there'll be new people coming in, but that will be very important. Very, very important. When we see systems positive, that means all the flow is literally coming from here, sliding from the southeast to northeast. You can still get big storms. Don't get me wrong, you can still get big storms, big snowstorms with that, but it's harder. It's typically harder. And then with this other stuff, these other two kinds, neutral, that's when we start to see, we can really start to get into this. See, when we get troughs like this, the problem is during the winter is we're not tapping in as to much of this deep rooted tropical moisture. Instead, we're tapping into, we can still tap into some good moisture, but this moisture is not as good as if we had a neutral trough. If we then tapped, it's not from there. Go back one. If we then tapped into this moisture, and then you'll have your cold air to the north, and these two can kind of meet. These two will meet like here. So then when you have this, you'll have your band that will kind of just slide out. It's not going to pivot. It's not going to start to pivot. But then when you have your negatively tilted trough, then you back the flow, you get all this, this deep-rooted moisture from here. This comes around the trough base, slides in, and you have your high pressure to the oh no, I just drew a penis. That's not good. That's not good. You have your high pressure to the north. That went wrong right there. That's not how that was supposed to go. The cold air, source typically, boom, this big high pressure. I'm not going to do that again. I'm just going to draw two H's. two H's here. And then this cold air meets this warm air and this deep tropical moisture. And what happens is that's where we get these big, big bands to happen in the wintertime. And that's why the depth of the trough, whether it's positively neutral or negatively tilted, that's why those all have really big influence on the weather patterns in general, but especially the wintertime and when we're talking about the ceilings for setups. But again, at this point, we have a negatively tilted trough. The storm starts to get pulled in, negative at this point. It gets pulled in up north. And that's when we watch for. So if we're able to see this kind of stream interaction, we're going to look for a trough with more depth. We get something like that to happen, then we start to think the Euro is possibly one of these solutions where it rides up the East Coast, or it just rides up to the East Coast until it makes a landfall and pushes inland and then out, which would be less wind impacts for the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic. That's when we could see that scenario with the GFS. It's trying to shear the system a little bit before its landfall and then kind of weaken it and then have it just as rain impact over inland. Where a scenario like that could still bring significant impacts. You have this deep-rooted tropical moisture and potential, you never know, you could get some tropical tornado potential. We saw that with Ida. It did not take, the worst part of Ida was not the 150 mile per hour winds. That was not the worst part of the storm, ironically. The worst part was the tornado outbreak over the Delmarva and into New Jersey in the 8 to 12 inches of rainfall in like the 3-4 hour span. That was the worst part of it. So it does not take, a category 1 hurricane to impact the Northeast to have potential category 1 hurricane impacts, if that makes sense. So there's just there's still way too many unknowns with this. And there's too many different scenarios where the East Coast could get impacts that are still significant. And that's why we have to watch. We have to play a little bit of a waiting game, unlike the Gulf, where we know this thing's going to be a significant hurricane landfalling. Even if it gets sheared off like the GFS, it's still going to be a significant impact. So, but they know what they're getting. They're just getting a purely tropical system. We don't know yet. Anybody north of Georgia doesn't quite know what they're getting yet. And that's kind of it. That's kind of where we're at right now. Again, appreciate everybody that showed up tonight. If you got questions, I will answer them right now. I will answer questions. So as many questions as you want, you can feel free to answer. And it can be, about some of the winter stuff that I talked about, troughs, etc., or it could be impacts about your area, whatever. I can't tell you what's going to happen in your backyard exactly like 6 days from now, but let me take a look here. Let's see how it's doing on satellite right now. And while I take a sip of water. I haven't taken a sip of water and I've been. Yeah, I'm going to have to charge that. This is also the first stream, fingers crossed, that I've done where we've had at no point 0 people in the stream. So clap it up for everybody that's in the stream right now. Clap it up, baby. Milestones. We're hitting milestones, which is good news. First, in the 2022 section. In the wintertime, I did streams only when it was big time stuff. With my new setup, this allows me to do more streams. Makes it a lot easier. Appreciate it, John. Appreciate it. I mean, but this came back to blow up tonight. Oof. Oof. It looks like it's a two-parter. I wonder if this initially this looks a bit more shearish. Potentially thunderstorms induced from shear. I'm not sure. Maybe that's where the new center. Maybe this convection blob is where the mid-level center is and low-level center, and maybe this is where the mid-level and the low-level center want to meet. That's possible. That is very possible. Still so many questions. So many questions with this system. We're going to have to figure out. Curious. I don't really put too much weight on the CMC, but I'm curious what it did. I want to know all the different. This looks like a little bit in between of the Euro and the GFS, the CMC right now, just off initial. Damn it, I did not want to do that. Did not want to do that. Yeah, it looks like the CMC is a little bit of an in-betweener. Yeah, let me plug that bad boy in. I don't need to charge. Oh, I charge my at 86%. You gotta be kidding me. See, the thing is, I don't like charging stuff. Too much right before bed because I know that if you charge stuff and it's at 100% for a long time, you can overcharge your stuff, and that drains battery in the long term, which I don't like to do. But it looks like we just did that. It's okay. That's okay. Looks like the CMC is a little bit of an in-betweener. Much deeper trough base than the GFS. I say much, but you can, yeah, it's not. I mean, it's deep. It's a tighter trough base. Definitely deeper. It looks like it's a little bit of an in-between. Still positive at this point. Starts to get neutral and then negative. Trough is negative. Even though it's still set up like this, I'm slightly talking. This might sound louder now. I turned us slightly away from the mic when I'm looking at this, so I turned the mic volume up a little bit. So even though our trough looks like this, which I explained looks like a negative, it's really you're looking for these constants. This is negative. That's negatively tilted at that point. But they're still not, but this is still getting sheared at this point because it's not close enough for a stream interaction. So at this point, it's just catching the wind shear that this trough's giving off. But this is a very strong ridge. I mean, this 591 all the way down here. So, I mean, I guess it could ride here, but even then, that's not a great path for it to easily head out to sea. That's why I'm saying this is a bit of an in-between. CMC is good in between the two. But it still misses the trough. Even though it's a good in-between, it still misses the trough. Which is interesting. And it kind of just fades. Probably put some tropical moisture inland to the Ohio Valley. Kind of just gets sheared apart. So it's a little bit of an in-betweener. Don't use that model for intensity. So this is why there's a problem using this model. It's really hard. The CMC struggles a lot. I talk about the GFS struggles with big systems. Big, strong systems. Beautiful, tremendous systems, as Trump would say. It struggles with the big systems, strong systems like that because it's just in the model physics. The CMC is even worse than the GFS. It's horrific. So this is why it's hard to use that. But But let's look. I wouldn't even look at how it interacts with the trough. I wouldn't even look at that. I shouldn't even use that as any weight. Just looking at that, we need to figure out that trough, and the CMC is a good in between. It's a good in between of both right now. That's what I'm more looking at. Euro hasn't come out yet. I'm curious if we can look at the H. We haven't really looked at excuse me. We haven't really looked at. I mean, look at that. Boom. That's 8. That's 500. See, this is why I don't really use 500 or 850 on the HWRF, because it just doesn't look like anything. Actually, if I had any I have had some YouTube comments. I gotta start checking YouTube more. I'm sorry, YouTube folks. Any YouTube folks that are in there still. I mean, that was 12. Oh, it looks like Paulo. The icon is not really that important of a model to me. It's not that important of a model to me, just because it's so bad. It's so bad of a model. So bad. I don't even check it. Winter, I might check it just because I like to go through every single model with winter. But a tropical, I won't even check it. I'll see someone post it on Twitter, and it just, ugh, man, it's just an awful model. It's an awful, awful model. I mean, they're tools, but it's an awful tool. It is not a good tool. Sorry, I don't mean to offend the creator of the icon model, but it's not a good model. What are my thoughts on the European model regarding what, Rikesh? If you're still in there, Rikesh, I'm not sure where you're going, but in general, it's an okay model. I don't know if you're asking me for Ian. I think I was talking about Ian at that point. Winter predictions. Just because I want it, I want 120 inches of snow this winter. That's my prediction. Realistically, it's too hard. It's too hard to make winter predictions. Actually, let's go out. Let's see if I can do that. Yeah, I can type. I can type to the YouTube. You can watch this on YouTube as well if you want. You'll probably honestly be able to control the quality a bit better, because Twitter, you don't get any options, so you can watch this on YouTube too. I check. It's easier for me to see the Twitter comments because I can just pull up the Periscope comments or the Twitter live comments on my iPad. That's how I follow all the comments. We do have. Oh, we still got people in the YouTube. That's nice. There we go. Yeah, if you do prefer YouTube, you can watch it here, and I guess you could still comment when log switch to from YouTube to Twitter, and then you can switch it there. I do have a YouTube channel. It's in the link of my Twitter if that's how you're interested. See if that's sent out. It did. Um, yeah, so you can Twitter or YouTube, however you want to come on. Yeah, it's just the icon's just not. It's just not a really good model. It's just not. I'm sure maybe it's possible you didn't know that. It's fine. No, not that's why I do these. I like to inform of the information people don't know. Um, they like to kind of do their own things. So, but yeah, let me slide back. Where was I going? HWRF. There we go. Watch YouTube, comment Twitter. I don't even know what that means. Sorry, I don't even know what that means. But let's see. Did we get 0Z? Not yet. But the HWRF was trying to pick up on that center reformation. So I think it's possible. You might have a decent idea. You can see, uh, even then, it's still too. It was too strong at that point, but was trying to pick up on that. I mean, how much does this thing tighten up here? Ooh, baby. Yeah, it's a strong one. Yep. Looks like a little bit of an in between some of those earlier Euro runs in the GFS. Yeah, I'm gonna have to do better at monitoring the YouTube comments. I'm gonna have to do a better job at that. I'm gonna have to do a better job at that. Let's see what this guy's got. I want to see what Fiona, what kind of how strong that thing's been getting. Damn. Oof. Um. Here's the thing. I guess I can show you why. If someone hops on stream and then goes, "This dude's using the NAM for hurricanes," I'll show you why. I'll show you why. That's probably a good discussion point. I'll start off. Long story short, never use the mesoscale models when forecasting tropical systems. They just don't have the physics at the current moment to try it. Just they don't. Then they're just not capable of doing it. I mean, you can already see here. The NAM is just way off to the east. I can't even explain this. It's just awful. That's just awful. That is that is horrendous. I mean, it's got a 997. Uh, Not even getting to the Gulf of Mexico for Christ's sake. It's just in the Atlantic. I mean, that's just oof, oof. And the Meso 3K model, the 3K is really high res, so it picks up on all the little vort spin ups, and it really just it takes off with those. It takes off, and like the NAM has, I think last year, I forget when, or the year before, it did like an 808 millibar storm. I've never seen that before. I've never seen like an 800, like I've never seen an 810 millibar storm model before ever. That's like it did that. The NAM 3K. So the NAM 3K just does not understand how to do this. And then the other models are bad because no one's ever bothered to check the rest of these. I guess HRR can look for really short term impacts. But man, these are not what you want to use. These are more valuable for the winter time. And even then, they have their problems. They have their biases. Oh yeah. You can watch YouTube however you want to watch it. However you want to watch it, you can watch YouTube and then comment Twitter. As I was talking about, you could do that. However you feel, you can get the best viewing experience and the information the best because um, you can control the quality all the way up to 720 HD. Trying to see if this guy's got any more stuff. He might be hard. He's in the brunt of it right now. Oh, he's living in Halifax. Wonder if he's in Halifax right now. It's a little bit. It's not as bad there. We got any recon? Wonder if we got recon heading towards that storm soon. You can see there's still some really strong winds here in the mid levels. Really strong winds. I mean, those are almost 120 knots. So I mean, almost 140 mile per hours. 140 miles per hour. Some of those winds are still in the mid levels. And at the surface, still major hurricane and major hurricane force. So once these winds move ashore, I think that's when some of the real big wind damage we could see. We've already had over 100 mile per hour gusts tonight too. Already had 100 plus mile per hour gusts. So this is already done some big stuff. Where is this plane right now? Am I blind? No, okay, I see where the plane is. Yeah. Yeah, we just chilling, trying to figure out this stuff. Is it still 9:30? Nope, that is not. Yep, still about 9:30, 9:29, 9:30, close to that. I mean, this is gonna be historic stuff right here. Um, I gotta get it not early, but I gotta get up at an early enough time where I can't wait for the Euro. I can't wait for that thing to come out tonight. Let's look at what does this thing say? What did this thing do? Oh, it just stalled out. Oh my god, I don't know if that's even possible. And here's why: because it's so weak. I can't really see it. The icon was so weak with this trough, so flat and so weak with this trough. Like you should not, if you know anything. Yeah, the winter we're gonna gain an hour too, or lose an hour depending on how you view it. Look how flat this is. There's just not one other model has shown this. So flat that there's no influence and there's no steering currents. This high pressure is too far to the east. This is too far to the north and west. And this trough is too far north and not strong enough to have any influence. That's why it stalls. I guess if that were to happen, it could be possible if it all shaped up like this. There's not one other model that shows this right now. That's why the shit stalls out. No, I'm sorry. It's 1:30. If you're like 13 and you can't handle the S word, that's your problem. But I mean, come on. That's not happening. That's just not happening. Again, the physics in this model are just trash. They're booty. They are not good. They're just not good. As you can see, even that though, this model is not good enough. But it's good enough to figure out that this other northern branch is going to kick into this trough, and that's what's going to help enhance the trough depth and helping it go from positive to neutral to negative a bit faster. Where are we at now? Oh, we drew on it. Yeah, that's good. That's good enough. We'll plug it in right after. But yeah, I'm glad to have the amount of people we did in the stream tonight. We probably, eventually with watch viewers, we're probably going to get over the 300 people that saw this stream. So I'm really glad, we were able to get that many. With such a longer stream like this, there'll probably be a little less people that go and rewatch it when they see it's like 1 hour and like 50 minutes. But yeah, we almost did a 2-hour stream tonight. And shit's still like 5 days away. So we are still this storm is this thing's a good ways away still. 5-6 days until landfall. I mean, man, those streams are gonna be packed. Most streams are gonna get packed. You better get your questions in before then, so you know everything that's going on when I talk about it. Otherwise, it might be hard to get your questions in. I'm like ego boosting myself right now, even though I'm not really trying to. Let's see, YouTube. Did I miss any YouTube stuff? Yeah, icon is it's not a good model. It's not a good. I mean, I haven't even. All right, there are a couple. 100 minutes ago. Damn, this is a long time. Looks like we had a few subscribers. Nice, 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 nice. Yep. Appreciate the new subscribers. Where was I? Where did I get lost? I think I was here. We had this new boom. It's got this. We had this initial burst right here, and then this other burst right here too. This CB burst. Got those two kicking. Those two kicking tonight right now. We get. But again, with all these different stuff, here you go. I'll go over just before I end it. Let's go over it just the basics one last time. We're gonna have this again. This 30 with Ian. We have these 30-degree sea surface temperatures, which is really gonna help this storm get going to intensify in its beginning stages, especially. And then once we see this thing start to take off and become a stronger hurricane, that's when we got these really strong sea surface temperatures that extend below the surface, if that made sense. Warmer ocean temps that extend below the surface. This is like jet fuel right here. This is really strong, really, really strong in terms of the scale. You can see it goes from these light blues are good enough to help support a strong hurricane, and these greens are good for strong major hurricanes, and these reds can technically support something really ridiculously strong. So with that is going to be really helpful for getting this thing going. It's really gonna help this thing get going. Almost looks like Elmo a little bit. Looks like if Elmo had one eye, or I guess if Elmo had one eye and another eye way off. Tell me that don't look like Elmo just a little bit. Tell me, am I seeing stuff that looks a little like Elmo? If you ask me, if Elmo had one eye, or if Elmo had like one eye and then an eye on the back of his ear or something. It's a little late. We're seeing things. But then, combine that with the moisture. This is in general. These two things, the moisture and the outflow. This is what has me so, I want to say excited, not excited for destruction, but this, to see the potential that this thing could get to. Excited is not really a great word. We're gonna want to fix that word. This gets me intrigued to know that the potential this system could reach is going to be really high. Again, it's this moisture bubble. We keep going back to it. The moisture this storm is going to have to work with is going to get to work with is going to be very, very nice. And even then, this could be a little bit bigger at this point. At this point, Monday evening. and then obviously, it's gonna have to work. This is it's downfall slash track shifts. Could be downfall. One of the things that could lead to its downfall is this trough here, this boundary, this front. Are they? Who wants the nav gem? The nav gem is not the nav gem. I promise you. The nav gem is not a good model. I promise you. How many people are watching the YouTube right now? I was not expecting that. The reason the YouTube grew in the first place was because of the videos. I would post my videos there. You can't have that many people commenting about that. But the nav gem is not really a good model. I mean, I guess we can look at it. We can look at it in a second, I guess. But it's not really a good. It's not really a good model. I promise you. I promise you, if it was a good model, I would have showed it already. If I felt like it had value to add to this conversation, I would have showed you. It's like it's it's like adding, like, it's like having a friend in a discussion. It's like it's had like have you're talking with someone, and someone else who knows nothing about what you're talking about comes into that conversation and then starts giving his input or her input. You're like, okay, my guy, you can stop talking. I heard enough of what you said. The minute you opened your mouth, I knew it was not going to be good. That is the nav gem and the icon. That's what those two models are like. It's like, okay, buddy, you can stop talking now. We don't need to hear any more from you tonight. You had either a little bit too much to drink, or you just don't know a lot in general. So let's just stop talking. That's the equivalent of the nav gym. But we'll take a look at it for fun. We can take a look at it for fun after. But again, the basics: this big time moisture. That's that's going to be the key again, and then the track, how this interacts with this trough. Does it get sheared off, kind of head up into the panhandle? Does it slide it through here, kind of in between, gets a little bit sheared, and then interacts late and kind of heads out to sea? Or it still could technically do something like I'm going to explain in a second, and then right up to the east coast. But I'm just going to go off to the side so you can see it. Or does it, get close enough to interact with this jet stream, not get sheared off, so it doesn't really weaken too much at landfall, and then gets pulled into the trough and slides up the east coast? Those are kind of the different scenarios. I would say, if I were to make a wide range of scenarios, really anything from, I don't even want to go that far. I guess anything from like here to here is possible. But if I were to narrow it down, I would say somewhere likely somewhere in here, which isn't really that breaking news based on what models have done for the last couple of days or so. That's not really breaking news, but that's probably where this thing is going. Florida, somewhere in Florida. If I were to put a bet down, this could change, but yeah, that's just based on. And how this doesn't happen is if it completely misses the trough. I got someone in Nova Scotia DM. I've been DM with him back and forth. Apparently, he's got some major damage. I think he lives on by Cape Breton. He actually just said, by far the worst storm I've ever experienced. So forever that person that said it was a dud earlier, I got actual confirmation. Looks like this thing. I think Josh has tweeted not too long ago too that this thing's doing some damage. JMA is not a good model either. So you figured out the JMA wasn't a good model, but you couldn't figure out the NamGen? That's okay. Yeah, the JMA is not a good model. I'm sorry. That's your favorite model. Do I need to go over the models, the best models? Sorry, we gotta break it down even more. YouTube, in general, I can't blame the YouTube people because the YouTube people come from all over and probably don't know a lot. I don't know anything about the person because Twitter, I can see someone comment something, I can get an idea of how much they know depending on what they reveal. YouTube, I don't really know because I don't really have any reaction with you guys. I'm glad you're here. Glad you're here though. Um, but the Euro, the GFS are the top two global models. Those are typically what I use and what most people use for tropical systems. Euro and GFS are the top two, and that applies for winter as well. Certain systems where you could see like the GEM, the Canadian model, the CMC, this one, where it could be useful. I've seen it be right before in certain scenarios. And then mesoscale wise, we don't really use these for tropical systems because as the reasons I just explained. But NAM's decent. NAM can kind of go overboard sometimes, and, off the boat. But NAM's decent, especially with East Coast phasing. HRR is good for within like 6 hours. Um, Outside of that, you're kind of testing its limits. And these models, these are some CAMS models. They're more popular with severe weather. That's what they're best for. Not really that popular for winter. These are just used to wishcast, kind of when you're looking for a model to show something. FV3s, I think it's an American mesoscale model. I think it's related to the GFS. I might be mistaken. It's got some work to do. Shows a little bit of promise, but it's got a lot of work to do. RGM is just the high res of the Canadian model, and this is just the high res of this high res. So it's just a higher resolution. That's all that is. These are just the different resolutions in the NAM, highest to medium to lowest resolution. So that's those are the different models and the best ones. If you didn't know, I'm sure that you Twitter, because I talk about it all the time in terms of models and what we look at. So I'm sure the Twitter folks knew that already, but some of the YouTube folks that maybe didn't know that. Man, I can't believe I'm gonna have to start following the YouTube stuff. Don't get me wrong, I'm glad, but wasn't expecting it. Man, honestly, the Euro might start loading. Did we get? No, it's not loading yet. 5 more minutes. We don't want to wait that much longer, though. I have to go to bed soon, too. Can't stay up forever. More and more curious with that convective burst on the east side tonight. More and more curious. Is this initiating a center reformation, or is it in the part of the middle of the process? I'm gonna have to do some digging on Twitter. With this one because I still don't know. I can't just look on satellite. All the other, hurricane meteorologists, they got more tools and stuff. I don't really go. I don't really look too far into that just because that's what they specialize in. So they got a little bit more time and they got a little bit more experience to look at that stuff. I don't. I don't have that kind of experience, or I usually don't put that much time to look at that stuff. If I'm really deep down in a storm, then maybe I'll start to get into it. Like once Fiona gets out of the way and becomes less of a problem, and then we're just looking at one storm, and then I can figure out all those different other tools that we can look at some point. And like when we're getting closer to, you gotta remember, like we're still pretty far away, so we don't need to get into some specifics in terms of tools we want to look at. Still, there's still not a lot of those specific tools we can look at, and that might just seem a little broad in general, the way I'm saying it, but still a lot. Still a lot that has to happen with the storm first. But this looks promising. This satellite looks promising for it to intensify tonight, which is maybe not promising for some people, but it does. The satellite tonight shows kind of like what I was talking about. I think gradual strengthening tonight. I guess you can't rule out some. I want to call it rapid intensification, which technically is qualified for 35 miles per hour in 24 hours, but some somewhat significant strengthening. I guess we couldn't rule it out tonight, but I'm not expecting it. Not expecting it. But the outflow does look decent. The outflow is starting to look much better. You can see it's starting to expand rather than the. You can see, notice how convection isn't getting pushed in any direction. It's not getting pushed here, and mainly it's been getting pushed here the whole day. Notice how it's not getting pushed way off center in either direction. And the outflow in the cirrus is expanding now in all directions as well, mostly to the west because that's where wind shear is most relaxed. That's the only reason that makes me think that this could undergo some significant strengthening tonight. Other than that, I think there's still a lot that needs to happen with some of the general structure of this storm for it to take off first. And that's why that makes me think only gradual, if any, strengthening. But because maybe this is just all noise right now, and it's just convective blowups. They don't always lead to intensifying, but most of the time they are. They are connected. They are connected. Oh, I promised you I would look at the nav gem. I'm glad some of you are enjoying this. I'm glad. I did not. I was not expecting the YouTube. Looks like we found the algorithm somehow. Looks like somehow we figured it out. And again, for the YouTube people that are in here, I do have Twitter. I think it's linked. It might be an old Twitter link, but my Twitter is it's the same as my YouTube's BGWX, Brady BGWX. We do big winter, a lot of winter stuff here. But we go in depth. We break stuff down. We go deep into this. I got a passion for this, so we go deep into it. Um, this won't be the last stream. We'll be on time frame too. This is around the time frame, or anywhere from around. Especially with the tropical streams, this is just the time that works best for me. When we've gotten all the information during the day. Those the 0Z models that typically run from that 11:30 to 11:30 to I guess however late I want to go, however late I can to stay up that night, depending on how early I have to get up. School isn't really a factor for me this year, or it hasn't been. But because I don't go to school, so I'm not at elementary school or something. I'm sure the tone of my voice said that, but Yeah, we're past school, so not really a problem for me to do this. Do I do Connecticut weather in the winter? Yeah, I mean I do the Northeast area. I do the Northeast area. Oh, we got another mass winter guy. Yeah, winter we pop off. Winter, it's active. It's active. I mean that blizzard of 22 that um 2 nights before that, that's when we really blew up. I mean, I must have gained 200-300 followers that night. I mean, we were on top of that one. We messed that up we messed it up a little bit. Um, but yeah, we this is a big. We're gonna do a lot of winter stuff, and we passed 2 hours. Wow, first 2 hour stream we've ever done. So yeah, winter. I don't really, I'll do some stuff in terms of, uh, I'll do some stuff in terms of other areas in the country, like if they're really big and important and connected. Um, I'll go over some of that stuff. Big storms, just anywhere. Those interest me. Like in the Midwest or something, there's a big. We typically don't like big Midwest snowstorms because that means in the Northeast. That something's going wrong with that pattern. Unless we can get high pressure to shear it off and send it east. Yeah, I did not was not expect. I mean, I don't know if it's updated. Let's see how many people we got in there. Bro, there's more than one person commenting in this, so there's more than one person watching live. I mean, given we got 6 likes, I would say there's more than one person watching. Appreciate the new subscribers. Yeah, I mean, I hope we get a good winter too. I hope. I know John in here in the chat. I know he's been hoping. He can't wait for winter. I know you can't wait for winter, John. I can't either. Felt a little like winter today. Getting a little closer. I liked it. Can't say I didn't like it. Although I do. I like to go outside and play sports. So that's one thing about the cooler weather that I don't enjoy. Like if I like to shoot hoops or something in my free time, then it cold is a little bit. But we embrace it. We embrace it. We're from New England. We embrace it, baby. Windy today too. I talked about that. If you were, I know John was, but for anybody that follow my stream, we talked about that. We talked about that early in the week that it was going to be windy with that pressure gradient with the trough pinwheeling. So with Fiona pinwheeling around the trough, created a nice little pressure gradient to get some gusty winds here in the Northeast. Yeah, we'll get some blockbusters. We'll get some blockbusters this winter for sure. For sure, we'll get some blockbusters. Where I want to go. Yeah, baby, we embrace the cold. It's that sweatshirt. Anything anything that's not in the 30s. It's sweatshirt and shorts basically. That's how it works. You get your Dunkin' coffee in the morning, and then you just had a great day. Just a great day to be in Boston. I could do my Boston accent. I can manufacture a Boston accent, but I won't do that here on the stream. New York too. I was just in New York. I can manufacture a New York accent too. Sweatshirt weather's nice, man. Sweatshirt's comfortable. Always comfortable. You can never go wrong with a sweatshirt when it's blue. Um, when it's in the 50s and 40s, you can never go wrong with a sweatshirt. Super comfortable. Should I already? Yeah, we lose 2% in that time. Man, I love streaming, but damn, does it takes the battery. No, we don't want to do that. No, thank you. Man, does it drain the battery. It really drains the battery. That was a fun winter. 2018 was a really fun winter. That winter, man, a lot of stuff happened. Started off questionable. Yeah, the Halloween storm. The Halloween storm was the biggest snowstorm. That was the biggest snowstorm for October I've ever seen. Power outage for like a week with that one. That one was not fun. 111-mile-per-hour gust on Cape Breton with Fiona. Ooh boy. Yeah, that really looks like a dud to me. 111-mile-per-hour wind gust. Jeez, such a dud. Let's see, wonder if we got. Check the Twitter sphere. Yeah, that thing was. It looks like he's a bright follow on Twitter too. He's rising. He's rising. Although the 35 followers, shoot, I'm not gonna lie. Listen, you decide who you want to follow. You do you. You be who you want to be. I'm never gonna judge someone for being who they want to be. But just trying to get that Twitter ratio follow, it's I'm not a fan of. I just happen to naturally have. I follow like almost 800 people. I follow who I want to follow. People I want to get information from. If I don't follow you on Twitter, it's not personal. It's just my timeline. My timeline now is so filled up with so many different people that there's so much stuff on my timeline now. Anybody likes someone, and all the viral tweets that Twitter puts into my timeline now. Man, I almost can't blame him for only following that many people. But if you look at James Spann, the amount of people he follows, he does it for a reason. He follows over 50,000 people because he's really interested in the reports. The people is what matters to him, especially as a TV meteorologist. That matter to him. They really matter to him. So following all these other people, that's important. I think to get information, especially I like to get down to earth. I do follow some down to earth people, which that's with the timeline a little bit sometimes, but it's good to get that. Yeah, even he being a little sarcastic. Really good follow, by the way. Derek Ward, really good follow. He can be a little bit sarcastic sometimes, a little over sarcastic sometimes, a little bit too. Sometimes he can get pretty opinionated, but he's a really good follow. I really like him. I really like him. I learned a lot from him. He's a really good follow. But I mean, who isn't opinionated on Twitter at the end of the day? He's a really good follow. Actually, I'm curious to see what his stuff is. He's got good model analysis too. It looks like he's skeptical of the GFS too. I'm skeptical. I agree. I agree that the Canadian didn't make a ton of sense as well. Um, it did not. It did not make a lot of sense. It did not make a lot of sense. I agree. There's still some things. There's still some things we got to figure out. We got to figure out with that model. I guess I am skeptical. I think the euro is onto something with the strength of that trough. That's immediately that's why I think I'm leaning a little bit euro with potentially the strength of that trough. We should get 0Z loaded by now. Oh no, EC fast. Yeah, we are EC fast. But in terms of, I think, short-term track, I'm not leaning. I said earlier, I'm still not quite leaning. Whoever picks up on that center reformation, I talked about it. I said earlier today that center reformation, I was pretty confident that was going to happen just based on the amount of convection that was firing the whole day. And with wind shear pushing that mid-level center and the convection to the southwest all day long, that's what made me confident in that we were going to see a center reformation at some point. And it looks like that's taking place. We have these two bursts of convection happening right now. Really weather nerds. There we go. Boom. Right now. No, we're not going to draw that, I promise. But this is starting to intensify a little bit more. I still think it's probably going to be gradual overnight, just because it's still going to have to work to get its, as I said, the low level center and the mid level center stacked. It's still got a little bit work to do. I think I'd have to imagine. I still have to look a little bit in depth after the stream, but that being said, it wouldn't shock me if there was a little bit of significant strengthening tonight. It wouldn't shock me based on what we've seen on IR. But I still think I'm a little skeptical of any real significant strengthening happening tonight, just because there's still a little bit of, excuse me, there's still a little bit of northeast wind shear. There still is a little bit on the eastern side, but it's not having a problem at the moment. And outflow is starting to expand a little bit as well. You can see it to the west too, just really expanding. This moisture bubble is expanding as well more. It's just really, the environment's going to get really good for this storm. Really, really good. This is the one. This is the one of the season for. It looks like it. I mean, I don't see anything. Like 5 days after this, that's going to come hit for the Gulf. So it's going to be harder in October, just because probably they'll cool down a little bit. Sea surface temperatures just a little bit. Tend to start to see more troughs dig down into the U.S. So it gets a little bit harder to see U.S. landfalls, but it's not impossible to get strong U.S. landfalls still in October, as we've seen the last 2 years. Even, obviously the deep tropics and down in Nicaragua is a little bit different, but, we saw with that, you can get borderline Cat 5s in November still. So we're not done with tropics by any means after this, probably. There'll probably be at least one or two more U.S. threats. You can't guarantee it. It's too hard to predict. But if I had to guess, we're probably not quite done yet. Probably not quite done yet with the tropics after this one. But too hard to predict at this moment. Oh, this mission's finished. I mean, they finished like an hour ago, so I don't know why I was looking at it. We'll use pivotal. We'll use pivotal Tibbets. With Tibbets now, you can get it to load. You can get the Euro to load on this. They call it Euro fast, and we've been able to get the 0Z running. Here we go. Yeah, for some reason it wasn't before. Now I guess we can start to take a look at the Euro. Do a little bit of Euro. I don't want to get dragged on here for another half hour though. I'm gonna need to end the stream at some point in the next 10-15 minutes. So I do need some sleep. I like to get my 8 hours. It's important. It's important to me. I just feel so much better when I have like the 8 to 6 hour difference in my sleep. It just, for me, it's important. Sometimes we sacrifice that. We've sacrificed that a lot though for tracking. So we're doing that a little bit right now. Ooh, look at that jump right there. Looks like Euro's picking up on that center reformation a little bit. That is a big difference. Notice the latitude. I mean, that's almost, is that damn near almost a whole degree? That's a big change. I'm gonna tweet that out. Nope. We'll get autocorrect. See, I don't like posting stuff without context, but this means we're gonna post more about this run. When I post something that doesn't have a ton of context and I'm just stating what's happening in the model run, that means we got more to go with that. Yeah, I like pivotal. I like pivotal. Pivotal's more winter. It's gonna be more winter. Yeah, I like eWeather as well. He does post a lot of eWeather does post. Oh, thanks for coming on the stream. I appreciate it. Appreciate you all that came on the stream. Um, eWeather's a good follow on Twitter, especially for the Connecticut folks. He's a good follow. He does love his models sometimes. He's heavily does post a lot of model stuff, which can sometimes get a little confusing for people that don't know what they're looking at. But if I'm looking at the euro, I want to see what this euro does compared to. That is a big jump. Oh boy. That's a big jump. That is a big jump in the euro. That's a significant change. Yep. Yeah, it looks like the euro. See, now I kind of want to see this. So this is, I actually really like this. Not for like the impacts. I'm not talking about the impacts. I really like this because I want to see what it does with a little bit more Western solution. But Euro's probably going to stay firm on the strength of that trough, is what I'm guessing. It's probably not going to change all too much. So I want to see what it does with that. Again, a little bit slower than both of these runs. Previous runs, 18Z and 12Z. Looks like a little bit weaker, but I mean slower as well, so it's going to take time. Excuse me. voice is still a little bit, but yeah, it's a lot slower. It's a lot slower. Actually, what we're going to do is we're going to delete that. Previous, y'all get to see me live tweet. I mean, these are some significant changes. Again, it's not unexpected. It's not unexpected. I know. Doesn't the live tweets, when I would see on other people's stream, it feels like, oh man, I'm seeing this before everybody else. This is special. It's like you seeing the edit of the movie before it happens. Isn't it something special? The live tweet. You get to see me make all the mistakes and everything. Although, is it gonna do? Hmm. I think I'm gonna have to do this. No. Okay. No. Okay. We don't want to exit out of the run. That's the last thing we want to do. Yeah. There we go. Wait, is that good? Did I have it right the first time? You mother. Oh my god. Had it right the first time. Actually, I don't even have to say curious. We can just go ahead and look at the damn thing. I can figure that out. Oh, it doesn't give me 500. I love 500 volt. I love 500 volt. Will we? I mean, hell, this digs the trough even deeper. But it is not as strong. It's not as strong with trough though. Let me take that back. See, I do better with breaking down 500 volt. I would like to see 500 volt. So yeah, I'm still gonna keep it this way. I want to see more of this. I don't want to make any assumptions before I'm 100%. Just messing. I'm just messing. I'm just messing. Dang. Um, no one's under. Nah, you're fine. You're Virginia. You're fine. You don't got anything to worry about right now. That when I say that, doesn't mean you're not gonna. You might not feel any impacts, but dude, you're fine. You're fine. You don't need to worry. Um, yeah, I know. I know Pivotal is fiber, but I don't want to go through and open all that stuff. I'll be able to look at that, and it will come out eventually. It will come out eventually on the euro. Um, yeah, dude, you know, you're on the coast of Virginia. You're fine. Like, you're gonna be okay. I promise you. Unless you do something stupid, like you have a better chance of dying from like driving your car than you do from the weather. I promise you'll be fine. Or you're not. There's no hurricane watch. I hope you're being sarcastic. Yeah, AccuWeather is phew, they like to put their cones out. I mean, I guess their cones aren't going to be too bad, but they catch flack for it every time. I mean, it's just easy to catch flack for it if you do it every time, and there's so much room for error. There's so much that can go wrong with that. It's um, it's like disregarding how forecasting is supposed to happen. That's why I don't. That's why I don't, I'm not a fan of a lot of the AccuWeather stuff. Um, Bernie Rhino's a great meteorologist, great for wintertime and Twitter lives. You know, he's bold. He's bold. Um, but you know, he's got a lot of past and a lot of history. So he's good for those Twitter lives in the wintertime. Love his stuff in the winter. Um, you know, he has done some tropical live streams too on Twitter, so I'll be curious. I might have to look at one of those at some point. But yeah, I mean, he goes live at like 4:45 in the morning. I'm not getting up for that. He has, you know, AccuWeather. He has to work on television, so I'm not getting up to wake up at that. And then there's a good chance, you know, 6 hours later, it's probably not as relevant. You know, like the general information is, but can be a little less relevant. Well, hold up. I'm gonna have to take something. And this is why this is. See, like you do any little mess ups on Twitter with the weather being man, the people that know their shit, they will cancel you fast. They will they will come after you. I mean, I guess that other Euro run today was like I should have. I mean, if you go to 12Z, It's really not that. It's just from 18Z. This won't be as groundbreaking as I said it was going to be. What can you do? What can you do? Some similarities to 12Z here. The strength of the trough, though, is a bit different. This is not as strong of a trough. Not as strong. Not as strong. I pointed that a little earlier. This is not as strong as a trough. Of a trough. Tampa. I mean, I was screwed. You gotta you, you gotta wait out. There's so much more stuff you have to wait out to play out. Like we don't know if it's landfalling in the Panhandle or like Naples. Like we're still like there's a lot of stuff to figure out still in terms of exact track for landfall, and that defines really if you're going to see major impacts or just significant. There's a big difference between that, between those extreme, impacts from the eye wall and just the significant, significant 40, 60 mile per hour tropical storm winds. There's a big difference between those. So we're still a bit far out to figure that out. Not far enough. We're not far enough out to say like it's not going to hit Florida. It could hit anywhere in the Gulf Coast. But man, yeah, I don't. Bro, you don't gotta leave Tampa. You ain't gotta leave Tampa right now. I just prepare. Tampa. I don't want to say no places ever do because Mother Nature's gonna do with Mother Nature. But it's been a long time since Tampa. Tampa's been lucky for a little bit now. They've been lucky for a little bit, so they're gonna probably get something at some point. If this is the one, this is the one. But I did a video a little while back on YouTube. Actually, you can probably go look at this on why Tampa Bay is one of the most storm surge prone cities that just hasn't gotten a hit in a long time. They are really susceptible if they ever are in that right front quadrant. Bro, you gotta be trolling at this point. You gotta be trolling. I know you're trolling. If you're not, you're not. But bro, it's so hard. I can't tell this tone. I can't. I try. Oh my god, bro. Oh, YouTube just added a whole nother element. I don't know how this got into the algorithm, but live in Tampa. No, that's not really like that. Palos has some good stuff. Some comments I can answer. Stronger. I mean, if you're serious, if you're actually serious, if you're actually being serious, your parents are probably fine. But if you're just trolling, it is what it is. For the people, not just you specifically, but the people that are going to be impacted, um, as long as you have a plan, there's no need to panic. Bro, who's driving on the street 2:30? Oof. Do you stronger it is once it is in the Gulf, the more chances it has to feel the trough. Well, see, the thing here, the chance to feel the trough is more of it's going to be a big part of what the trough just does itself. To be honest, track will play a part in how, how it steers with potential stream interaction with the trough. That is going to be important too. That is going to be important too. So what's going to define the strength of this storm at landfall a lot is going to be the strength of that trough. That's why I was trying to look at 500 for it here, because how deep this trough digs and the timing of it is essential. It's extremely essential because how much this digs down combined with the timing is going to allow for whether or not this can interact. If we have this trough here and it tries, I'm just showing an example, not the exact replica of what's going to happen. And you allow us to get on this side, bro. YouTube and people going off in the YouTube comments, man. I'm not even going to try to police that at the moment. I'm just trying to break down the storm here and there. Man, there's some extra stuff going on. But the storm, if we can get a stream interaction, that's how we can get the storm to start to pinwheel and then slide up the east coast and potentially get back out to sea for a moment and then come up, slide up the coast or inland, whatever, slide out, etc. But if it gets caught, if it misses the trough and it gets caught under it and it gets caught in between, that is when we start to see some potential problems for landfall. And this could be good for the people of Florida who don't want a stronger storm. Storm chasers may not be as happy, but them being a little bit less happy and people being safe is what matters more at the end of the day. So if you're rooting for this thing's downfall, I'm not sure why you wouldn't be, but if you're not a storm chaser and you're rooting for this thing's downfall, you really want this thing to miss any possible stream interaction with this trough. And you want this dry air to get wrapped into the system around it from this high pressure. And you want this thing to get sheared off. Because that prevents organization within the system's core from the low to mid to upper levels in the system. Well, upper levels if it's a really strong system. And that's how you can get this thing to slide off more and potentially more out to sea. I guess you could see a scenario where this high pressure is really being undermodeled and this pushes even farther, stronger, and there's nowhere for this thing to go except to get sheared out and it kind of just dissipates over water or misses the trough completely and then re-intensifies until the next trough comes. I guess that's another possible scenario, but that would take a lot to happen. We got a lot on the screen right now. Yeah, that's a key. That's a key. More people will be focused. The trough is key. And that's where I think I play my part. That's kind of where I play my part. Is it's my job to figure that stuff out. I don't know if I want to view that. I'm not going to show who I muted on stream. I have to mute some people that follow me or I follow because I don't want to be disrespectful. There might be good people, but at the same time, like I just I don't like the content that I'm seeing from you on stream. Or not on stream. I just don't like the content I'm seeing from you in general. Or sometimes like you add others, like your weather stuff may be good, but you add like other stuff too. So I don't, if I mute you and I follow you, it's like it's not. It's sometimes it could be personal. It could be personal, but I just don't want to be extremely disrespectful. Um, so out of respect, I just mute you, so I can see anytime you comment on my stuff, but I can't see your regular stuff because I don't ever want to block someone. Well, I don't want to be disrespectful first of all, and unfollow if especially if I followed you, and you follow me, then I don't want to be like super disrespectful. But at the same time, I don't want to block anybody too. I'll just mute you if like you're just being a troll. I'll just mute you because I think my content is somewhat can be somewhat valuable to some people and important, and I don't want to prevent you from not being able to see it, especially during severe weather when there's big tornado outbreaks and stuff. And like there's a tornado potentially impacting someone you know. I don't want to put something out there that you can't see and maybe help someone. That probably doesn't happen too often, but I'm just saying. I just saw a tweet 937 pressure someone recorded, which I think that's a record. I think that's a record for a landfalling hurricane or was hurricane system, like north of a certain latitude. I mean, we're hitting up like 2 hours 40 minutes here on this stream. This is a long ass stream. This is a long stream. Yeah, this looks pretty promising tonight. It's like our center of information is happening. Telling y'all, I called that earlier today. I mean, it's not really that hard. I mean, it's hard to predict exactly when it's going to happen. But now, look at the outflow starting to be able to breathe. This thing's having some room to breathe on this eastern side too. I mean, it's hard. It's not like grind. It's not like I'm trying to do this to build up the following, etc. I just genuinely like doing this. I'm trying to figure out the stuff anyway. I probably would be just watching some funny stuff before bed, just that it came out wrong. Like literally, like something that I enjoy before bed. It still didn't come out right. Yeah, I would just go through YouTube basically. Go through YouTube, not those bad websites, not those XXX websites. Um, like just like YouTube stuff in general, or sports, etc. Before I go to bed, I probably if I didn't have as many people, then I probably would be, but I knew there'd probably be more people. But you can see the outflow expand in all directions. This is really good sign for the storm to get going, and a sign that this thing's probably. And you can see, notice the outflow to the southwest too, starting to expand. That's a good sign for this storm. Notice these little clouds here, this gray stuff. You can see it starting to expand. That is a good sign for the storm to start keep strengthening, strengthening, and getting going. I think I would expect some strengthening tonight based on what we're looking at on satellite. Any last questions? Any last questions? I think we said like any last questions like an hour ago, maybe longer. And we wanted, but we YouTube happened. That's right. Pool says 700 home run tonight. I'm a baseball guy. I'm a sports guy in general, so that was really cool to see. Albert hit his 700 home run. Oh, what did Josh tweet? Destruction. He's an hour ahead too. Nova Scotia time. Again, Josh is great content. Great content. Hi, we're gonna have to teach you a little bit. We're gonna have to teach you a little bit how it works. We go pretty in-depth analysis. So like looks like Euro just misses the trough this time, which is possible. It's a possible scenario. It's just probably gonna get sheared a bit more. I mean, it still gets pulled in. It still gets pulled in. It looks like there's some sort of stream interaction. I can't tell with. I need 500 millibar for it. I rely on that thing. I'm not as good as other areas. I need 500 millibar for it. It looks like it gets pulled in some. Yeah, it gets pulled in some, but it's not perfect. Looks like we still get stream interaction. So I lied. It doesn't completely miss the trough. Does not completely miss the trough here. Probably should be some significant flooding. Dude, and if you're not trolling and you're actually being serious, Central Virginia would be more flooding concerns. Really wouldn't be as big wind threats. That's really the only thing. Flooding and tornadoes is really the only possible way that you could get a significant impact in that part of the country. If you're actually being serious. Yeah, understandable. I wouldn't worry too much at this point because you can only control what you can control. I think you'll learn in time if you are really invested and you like my content and you want to stick around. You will learn a lot. You'll learn just in general. I don't really hype. I'm not a hype thing. Things that warrant certain wording. I will use it that way. Um, but that's only when things are clear. When things are clear, like Fiona right now, things are clear. You can see it unfolding. That's why I called it historic because it literally is historic. Like it's happening. Um, but yeah, I think there's a lot of. I mean, the more I think if part of it is too, and how it was with me when I was starting to learn a lot of this stuff in the beginning years ago was it just takes time. You gotta follow the content more if you want to learn for yourself. My advice would be if you really want to learn for yourself is you get vorticity maps. I need another sip of water, sorry. You get vorticity maps on models and you try to match them up with P-type maps, the ones that look like radar. That helped me. That helped me do that. That would be my advice. And you just match up with different stuff on models if you want to try to learn try to learn how to use this. Or and if you don't have a Twitter account, maybe you don't want to use your own Twitter account, get a separate Twitter account. Get another Twitter account just for weather stuff and try to learn it if you're really interested in it. There's nothing wrong with trying to learn, trying to learn this stuff. It's pretty fascinating. But yeah, I gotta, as much as I've enjoyed a lot of the stuff on the stream tonight, one last look here. I think we're gonna go to bed now. We can go to bed. I'll be active on the Twitter sphere for probably the next 10-15 minutes. But I'd say we're getting ready to get some sleep here. All right, I appreciate. Yeah, I'm glad I could help you. If I'm sorry, I can't tell tone through comments. So if you are actually being sincere, then I'm glad I could help you. Yeah, I'll see you as well, John. Have a good night. Appreciate it. But yeah, I'm glad I could help wherever I could tonight. I'm glad for all the more YouTube people that came in. I'll have to look at some more YouTube comments coming up. It's easier for me to see Twitter comments, but if you enjoy YouTube and you just want to comment on Twitter, that's fine. I'll scroll through YouTube eventually, so I'll see it at some point. But yeah, hopefully y'all have a good night, and first stream where we didn't have 0 viewers the whole time, which is nice. Or not the whole time, but just at one point. We didn't have zero viewers at any point. That's the very beginning, obviously. So glad we had interaction throughout the whole stream. So